Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are back with our video number 2 for our La Passacaglia Rosettas. Now for those of you who asked me about the paper pieces and the windowed templates with the seam allowance, so here's what I did. I bought the digital files on Etsy. All you have to do is search for La Passacaglia template and pick the one you prefer. In my listing there were 3 sizes available. A smaller one, which I think is the book's original size, a medium-sized one, which is the one I've got right here, and a larger size. So after I downloaded the paper templates, I printed them, loads of them. Let me see, for the triangle, see? Loads and loads of them, the more the merrier. And I suspect I will be printing out more because, I'm not sewing my Rosettas together, so I can't really remove the inside paper pieces, meaning I need more and more. Okay, now for the windowed seam allowance templates, here's what I did. Imagine this is my cardboard, okay? So I take my paper pieces, the ones I downloaded from Etsy and printed, and then I come here, I just draw a line around it, right? Oops. And I use cardstock, but even paper will do, but cardstock just lasts longer, and we are going to use them quite a bit. After I've drawn this, I just get a ruler like this one and I add 1/2 inch as a seam allowance all around the first line. And the good thing is these are geometrical figures, so they're really easy, to add the seam allowance. No curves or anything like that. So you just add 1/2 inch throughout. Oops, here, I should have done that like that, but just for you to get a picture. So 1/2 inch like so. And then what I would do next is I would cut on this line and on this line, and I would get this. And I know there's also a website that sells like digital files so that you can print directly onto your fabric, or you can simply follow the links I added in the description and buy all of these on Amazon. I don't have that option. These aren't available where I'm from, and buying them from abroad is just crazy expensive, with all the custom charges and whatnot. So that's why I did it the way I did. And I hope that clarifies things. If not, just let me know and I'll try to help you out, okay? Meanwhile, let's get going. So what do I do next with this? I just get on the fabric I'm going to use, let's say this one. I draw it out, and then I cut, and I get something like this. See? This is from this template. Okay, so after I have done this, after I've cut my, my paper piece with the seam allowance, what I do is I get my paper piece back like this. And this is actually one of the trickier ones to baste, so I'm glad I'm doing this so you'll get an idea of how I do it. I get this magical basting glue pen, which I'm also adding to the description. I draw a line through the paper and the fabric. Now this is temporary glue, so do not worry. You will be able to remove the papers once it's time. So there's one. Always do this, clockwise or counterclockwise, but always do this in order, okay? To get some neater seams. To get neater seams. And then we do like this again, and we fold this one inside. I don't know how you do it, but I cut out, most of the excess fabric because I don't need bulky stuff in the back of my quilt or my rosette as it is. And that is how I get one of my triangles, and this is the exact same way I do for every other shape, okay? This is exactly how I do it. Today we're adding one extra shape to the mix, which is our very large, very gorgeous pentagon. This means that now we have 3 different shapes in use. There's 2 left, and we will be doing that for our next video. And so today we will be adding an extra layer to our growing rosetta. I've got a tiny rosetta right here. It's not the one I made in the last video. That one is right here actually. So if you'd like to know how I did these first 2 layers, you can watch the first video for this series, and I'll just add a link to the description and also to the end of this video so you can watch afterwards. The idea here is just to keep going and keep watching that rosetta grow and grow and grow until we reach the very last layer, and by then we will be able to do all of them, really. Okay, so let me get these out of the way. And right now what we have is this one, and we will be adding 10 large pentagons around it, and just by adding those pentagons it will be stunning. Let me show you. We have this lovely Anna Maria Horner fabric right here. No fussy cutting this time. I just, they're all stunning really. I'm just adding, the greens and the blues and the grays and the pinks and the purples and the reds, and it gets transformed just by adding these colors. It's like a completely different rosette. I think this is gorgeous, and even though there are so many more layers to add to make a really big rosetta, this one is gorgeous. Now we will be adding these by hand, of course, although you could add them by machine, nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I just love to have a project I can make when I don't want any noise, and sewing machines are as noisy as they come. I just want something I can do at night, while listening to a podcast or something like that. It's just so relaxing to do something physical while allowing your brain to shut down and rest. Plus, it's an exercise in patience, and I sure could use it. Okay, now to sew these pentagons, I am going to show you 2 ways of sewing these on. And one is how I did my first star, and I showed you that, but today I figured I would just add a second way of adding these that you may find easier. We've talked about this. The idea is for the stitches to be completely, hidden. And sometimes when you do with this stitch, which is the one I taught you on our last video, it can become almost impossible. Particularly, you can see mine, particularly if you're not using like the same color as the fabric you're sewing. And I think, the second way of doing it will be much easier for you, but I'll show you both and you decide what you want to do. Okay, here we go. So we get, and I guess today, just because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to redo my stitches like I did for my last star. Remember, I used a really big needle, so the stitches were showing like crazy, and then I ended up having to redo all over again because they looked awful. Today I'm going to try and show you these with my quilting needle, which is actually kind of bent. Yeah, I'm going to get a new needle. Okay, now I don't advise that you pick a really big thread like this one. I'm actually cutting this down, and in Portugal we call it a lazy thread. I don't know if it's the same where you are. The bigger the thread for this kind of project, the bigger your odds are of having really nasty, bothersome knots that will just be a pain to get rid of. So best use a smaller thread and just go along with it. Okay, so first I'm going to sew these 2 together, and I am going to show you the stitch that we made the other day. Okay, so there's really nothing to it. And there's really nothing to this one. You just make tiny little stitches at the fold of the fabric, and you just tie it all together like so. So nothing much. The bigger the needle, the bigger your stitches will be, which is something that's not really good for this project because you really only need tiny stitches. You're taking up at least 2 layers of fabric, so it's not going anywhere. You don't need to make really big stitches. Don't worry, they won't come off, they won't rip. This is sturdy stuff, okay? So this is the stitch we did last time. And as you can see, if you make them real small, they're almost hidden. And if I had used a darker thread, like a black or something like that, you would not be able to see them at all. Now, for the second way of stitching these together is horizontally. Like, let me show you. Whoops. Let me show you. You just do like this, and then you turn them around like this. Oh, you see? Not sure if I can show you with this needle, but I really didn't want to use a big one. Okay, so let me show you again. Horizontally, you just cross over one layer, and then you flick your wrist and you come back just like this, and you pull. you know, this tiny stitch from here, this tiny stitch from here to there, really tiny. And once you open this up, it is practically, you know, it's invisible because it is horizontal from here to here. Now you see the stitch because I'm not pressing it very hard, but you know, the stitch itself, see here and here, it's way inside the fabric and you can't see. So that is an easier way to do this, I guess. It's quicker too, because you know, you just get and if you want, you can do more than one turn. It's like you're hand quilting. Have you tried hand quilting? This is pretty much how you do it. You just, you know, swipe your needle around a couple of times, and that's it. You know, tiny, tiny stitches. These are on this side, and these are on this side, and then these are on this side, and these are on this side, and when you open them up, you can't see a thing. So they're quite nice. Okay, let's keep doing it. We'll go back to the former stitch just to make sure those corners are nice and crisp before we move on to our next one. And there we have it, our first two, and now we are just going to sew them on to our star before we move on, like so. And if it's easier for you, you can just, you know, make sure they don't move. I mean, you're piecing paper, but that's okay. That's not a problem. I would advise that even if you're doing, you know, the horizontal stitch, you always start a new piece with these stitches just to make sure they don't move around as much. You know, this horizontal stitch, if you don't keep it really tight, it gives a bit of leeway for the pieces to move, and that's not nice. Also, you know, with the stitch you have to be extra careful not to sew the paper. Now for this stitch, you will notice that it won't be quite as straight. It will be a little bit wavy, and that's totally expected. See, when it's this stitch, it's all really straight, and it's this one, it's a little bit wavy, but it's not something that's really noticeable once it's all said and done. So don't worry, if you like this stitch, just keep doing it. Okay, third one, it's still loose, we need to attach it. So you can, you know, either stop right here, or you can just go down like this and just keep going. And what I'm hoping is that by the end of this series, I will have one rosetta on each stage, you know, at least one. Because if I decide to make the quilt, or to make a version of the quilt, I almost certainly won't be doing the quilt just like as it is in the movie. Because if I decide to make the quilt, well, or at least a version of that quilt, I don't think I will be making the exact same version that's in the book. But if I decide to make a quilt with these rosettas, you know, I may as well have a few of them already on the way. This will give me a really good head start. Okay, you might want to check these once in a while to make sure, you know, you're not doing anything funny with your stitches. Okay, spoiler alert, for our next video we are going to go big, the biggest we've ever gone. You know, if you think that adding 10 pentagons is a lot, I can tell you right now, you are going to be blown away by next video. Next video is stars, cute, beautiful stars with our two remaining shapes, you know, the ones we haven't used yet, which is tiny pentagon and tiny triangle. And let's put it this way, you need 10 stars, and each star is made out of 6 different pieces. So that's 60 pieces we'll be adding, and you know, between the stars we will be adding 10 large diamonds like the ones we used, you know, for this star. So 10 of these, 10 smaller pentagons, and 50 triangles. But I will also tell you that that step for me, out of all the steps it takes to make la Passacaglia Rosettas, oh sorry, that came out with a kind of a weird accent. Like I said, but for me, you know, out of all the steps that take to make la Passacaglia Rosettas, the stars are by far the most stunning. They're the ones that make you go, wow, did I just make that? No, I did not. Ah, that was all me. Okay, we are almost there. 3 to go, looking stunning, 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 stunning. Okay guys, we are done this is our brand new Rosetta, and it is looking absolutely gorgeous. It is going up next with these ones, and I think we've got a pretty good mix by now. I'm proud of them. Guys, this is a Rosetta we made today, and it is absolutely stunning. Oh god, I'm loving this project. I hope you are too, and I will see you very, very soon for our next video. Bye bye!